Good day, everyone. I'm Zai Intong, and today we will delve into one of the significant events in the Philippine history, which is the Cavite Mutiny. The year 1872 marked a critical chapter in Philippine history as it witnessed two monumental events. The first one is the Cavite Mutiny, a major factor in the awakening of nationalism among the Filipinos.
The Cavite Mutiny was a brief but significant rebellion that occurred on January 20, 1872 at the Cavite Naval Arsenal, a military installation in Cavite, Philippines. The mutiny was primarily led by a small group of Filipino soldiers, workers, and some members of the native militia, but it had far-reaching consequences, especially in the context of Philippine history and the struggle for independence from Spanish colonial rule.
So, what does mutiny mean? It is a rebellion against authority. It comes from an old verb mutine, which means revolt, to the second monumental event, which is the martyrdom of the three priests. They are Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. What does Gomborza mean? It is the collective name for the three martyred Filipinos priests which I mentioned earlier. They were falsely accused of masterminding the Cavite Mutiny. So, these are the three priests. Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora were a prominent Filipino priest wrongly accused of treason and sedition in connection of the Cavite Mutiny. Let us know them one by one, to be began with Father Mariano Gomez, a Chinese Filipino in his mid-70s from Cavite, held the most senior position of Gomborza as Archbishop's vicar. A staunch nationalist, he calmly accepted his death penalty, viewing it as a penance for his pro-Filipino stance. Next is Father Jose Burgos. Spanish descent and born in Philippines, was a parish priest at the Manila Cathedral. Known for his close ties to the liberal governor General de la Torre, at 35, he actively and spokenly advocated of the Filipino Philippinization of the clergy. And the last one was Father Jacinto Zamora, a 37-year-old Spaniard born in the Philippines also, served as the parish priest of Marikina. He was known for his unwillingness to tolerate arrogance or authoritative behavior from Spaniards arriving from Spain.
Joaquin Pardo de Travera, Antonio Maria Regidor, Jose Basa, Pio Basa, and other Filipino lawyers were suspended from the practice of law, arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment at the Marianas Island. Joaquin de Travera, Antonio Maria Regidor, Jose Basa, and other Filipino lawyers were punished by the colonial government during the Spanish War. They were suspended from practicing law, arrested, and sentenced to life in prison. On February 17, 1872, the Gombursa were executed by the Grat in public to serve as a threat to Filipinos never to attempt to fight the Spaniards again. This is a scene reputedly witnessed by a young Jose Rizal. So on February 17, 1872, three Filipino priests, Father Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, were publicly executed by the Grat in Manila. Differing accounts of the events of 1872. Number 1. Pardo de Travera's account of the Cavite Mutiny. Number 2. Plaucius' account of the Cavite Mutiny. Pardo de Travera's account of the Cavite Mutiny. Pardo de Travera, a Filipino historian nationalist, believed that the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 was not a serious rebellion, but rather misunderstanding. Plaucius' account of the Cavite Mutiny. Plaucius, a French writer and eyewitness, had a different view of the mutiny. He saw the event as an attempt by a small group of Filipino soldiers and workers to rebel against the Spanish government. He believed that the mutineers were encouraged by the growing unrest among Filipinos. Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Travera, a Filipino scholar researcher, wrote a Filipino version of the bloody incident in Cavite. Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo Travera. He was a Filipino scholar and researcher, known for his work on Filipino history and culture. He wrote a Filipino version of the bloody incident in Cavite Mutiny. According to Pardo de Travera, the incident was merely a mutiny by Filipino soldiers and laborers of the Cavite arsenal to the dissatisfaction arising from the draconian policies of Izquierdo, abolition of privileges and prohibition of the funding of the School of Arts and Trades. An excerpt from Pardo de Travera's account of the Cavite Mutiny. Filipinos had great hopes of an improvement in the affairs of their country. The friars feared that their power in the colony would soon be complete a thing of the past. So, in his account of the Cavite Mutiny, Pardo de Travera wrote that Filipinos had high hopes for improvements in their country, believing that change in Spanish policies might bring better conditions. However, the friars who held significant power in the colony feared that these changes would threaten their authority. They were worried that the reduction of their control over civil and educational matters would soon make their power a thing of the past. Edmond Plauchu, a French writer, complemented Travera's account and analyzed the motivation of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. Edmond Plauchu, a French writer, supported and expanded on Pardo de Travera's account of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. He analyzed the motivation behind the mutiny, suggesting that it was not just a reaction to local policies, but also part of a broader dissatisfaction with Spanish rule. Plauchu emphasized that the mutiny was driven by Filipinos' growing frustration with their treatment and the abuses of the Spanish authorities, saying it is a sign of increasing unrest and desire for change in the colony. An excerpt from Plauchu's account of the Cavite Mutiny. The arrival in Manila of General Izquierdo put a sudden end to all dreams of reforms. Such a policy must really end in a strong desire on the part of the other to repress rule. So in his account of the Cavite Mutiny, Plauchu wrote that the arrival of General Izquierdo in Manila ended all hopes of reform. He believed that Izquierdo's harsh policy would inevitably lead to further repression of Filipinos. Differing accounts. Friars used Cavite Mutiny as a part of a larger conspiracy to cement their dominance. They showcased the mutiny as part of a greater conspiracy in the Philippines by Filipinos to overthrow the Spanish government. Unintentionally, it resulted in the martyrdom of Gomburza, and fame waited the revolution culminating in 1898. So the friars in the Philippines used the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 to further their own agenda, portraying it as part of a larger Filipino conspiracy to overthrow Spanish rule. However, the execution of Gomburza, as a result of this accusation, became an unintended consequence. Rizal dedicated his second novel, El Filibusterismo, to their memory. I dedicate my work to you as victims of the evil which I undertake to combat.